Chapter 1. The last breath before the moon. The salt water stung the cuts on Kael's arms. But he wouldn't let go of the fish. He couldn't. "Drop it, you sewer rat," growled Jorn, the largest of the old dock orphans, his thick hands twisting Kael's thin wrist against the wet stone. "It's ours." Ash. "The net fell off our boat." "Liar," Torin shouted, his brown hair and vivid green eyes materializing like lightning from the shadow of a pile of old nets. His slender body was pure tension, his green eyes gleaming beneath the dirt on his face. "You don't even have a net. You stole one from old Marin?" Torin didn't attack Jorn, that was suicide. Instead, he aimed for the second biggest, a boy with hair like seaweed, and drove his elbow into his stomach. The boy dropped like a sack, letting go of the fish he'd been trying to wrestle from Kael's grip. It was the opening they needed. Kael twisted, not to run, but to bite Jorn's arm. Not hard enough to wound, but enough to surprise. Jorn let out a yell and loosened his grip for a fraction of a second. It was enough. The two friends, in a movement born of 1,000 similar scraps, turned and ran. Not toward the main wharf, they'd be surrounded there. They scrambled over stacks of empty barrels, vaulted a small, overturned dinghy, and vanished into the labyrinth of rotten planks and abandoned ropes behind the salt warehouses that neutral territory even the coastal guards didn't venture into. They only stopped when their breath was ragged in their chests and the sound of the waves covered any possible pursuit. They sat on the damp ground, leaning against a wooden wall that smelled of low tide and rotten fish. The fish a blue-scaled wrassley between them, still twitching faintly. "We'll make a good stew," said Torin, rubbing his bruised knuckles. "Or at least we won't go to bed with our stomachs growling." Kael nodded, wiping the blood from his split lip with his already tattered sleeve. He looked at his friend. Torin was skinnier, faster, with a cleverness that shone in his eyes. Kael was stronger, quieter, the one who planned before acting. Together, they were more than survivors. They were almost brothers. Ever since the winter fevers took their families in the same year, leaving them at the mercy of the stranded village of shells. "3 more days," Torin whispered, his gaze losing its fight ferocity and taking on a distant gleam. 3 days until the blessing. A cold that wasn't from the sea ran down Kael's spine. The day of the blessing, the first day of spring. For kids like them, wharf orphans who could barely write their own names, it was the only door not locked with iron and contempt. Every year, the priests of the Temple of Calm Waters came to the Bay of Whispers. Every child who turned 10 that lunar month was brought forward. They placed their hands on the awakening shell, an artifact white as sea foam brought from distant islands, and it would glow, or not. 30%, said the old gossips drinking in the taverns. Only 3 in 10 had the spark inside them. The innate magic, the potential, is for those who sparked a new life. Tutors, training, maybe even a spot in a minor school, far from the smell of fish and the fight for scraps. For those who didn't, they stayed on the wharf, dockhands, beggars, thieves, until their bones wore out or the sea claimed them. "We're going to spark," Kael said, his voice firmer than he felt. "Both of us. Together." Torin smiled, a rare smile that cleared the grime from his face. "Right then. I'll learn water magic and bring a tsunami just to wash Jorn and his gang away." They laughed, the sound echoing softly in the rotten wood. It was a fantasy. A small, fragile flame they kept alive in their chests, more valuable than any fish. The 3 days passed like a fever dream. Every barrel hauled, every barge unloaded. Every black I earned in a fight over a piece of stale bread, all of it was pierced by a single thought. The blessing, on the morning of the day, the whole village seemed to hold its breath. Mothers scrubbed their children with fragrant herbs, fathers straightened mended clothes with sad pride. For Kael and Torin, there was no one to scrub or straighten. They washed in the cold seawater, scrubbing the grime from their skin until it hurt. Torin found a less torn shirt for Kael. Kael tied back Torin's wild hair with a piece of clean rope. They looked like 2 gaunt soldiers preparing for the battle of their lives. In the Bay of Whispers, a small white sand cove protected by tall rocks, the atmosphere was one of stifling solemnity. About 30 children were lined up, the wharf orphans mixed with the children of fishermen and small merchants. In the center, on a pedestal of smooth stone, rested the awakening shell. Beside it stood the human priest of the Temple of Calm Waters. Dressed in blue and white, and Shaman Arkel, the scaly-skinned semi-human elder representing the Tide Council. One by one, the children approached. They touched the shell. Most times, nothing happened. A faint, fleeting glow indicated minimal potential, perhaps for domestic magics. But sometimes the shell pulsed with a vibrant, near-blinding blue light, and a whisper of waves filled the air. Kael's heart beat like a trapped drum in his chest. He held Torin's hand tightly, their fingers interlaced like roots. The shipwright sun sparked. Semi-human girl with faint gills sparked. Their hearts tightened. Torin was called before Kael. He let go of Kael's hand, his green eyes meeting his friend's brown ones for an infinite second. Together, they seemed to say. He walked to the shell. His hand, thin and marked by cuts, hovered over the pearlescent surface for a moment before touching it. Nothing. The shell remained cold, mute, dull as a common stone. Torin's face didn't contort. He didn't cry, just emptied. The light of that inner flame that kept him nimble and hopeful went out, replaced by a resignation so profound it hurt Kael more than any beating. Then, it was Kael's turn. His feet felt like lead. He saw Torin's empty gaze in the line. He felt the weight of all the hungry nights, of all the dreams shared in whispers in the dark. He placed his hand on the shell, and the world exploded in light. It wasn't just a glow, it was an eruption. The shell became a small blue sun, casting patterns of water and light on the surrounding rocks. A roar of distant waves filled the bay, and the very air grew humid and heavy with salt. The priest and the shaman exchanged a look of astonishment. This wasn't common potential. This was something ancestral. Kael didn't feel euphoria. He felt an icy void opening inside him. He took his hand away, and the light vanished. The first sound he heard wasn't the impressed murmurs of the crowd, but a muffled sob coming from the line. The ceremony ended. 3. Only 3 had sparked with noteworthy power. Kael, the shipwright's son, and the half-siren girl. The orphans who hadn't passed were gathered like dejected cattle. Some cried softly, others just stared at the sand, their futures sealed in that silence. Torin was among them, his profile a statue of silent despair. Kael was led to the front. A man approached Captain Lorne, one of the village's lords, owner of 3 merchant ships. His gaze was calculating, not kind. "The boy comes with me," he announced to the priest. "I have an arrangement with the Safe Span School, an apprenticeship for one with potential. He'll serve." Kael barely heard him. His eyes were locked on Torin. The captain seemed to perceive the tension. For a rare instant, something like pity or, perhaps just boredom, crossed his austere face. "You have until sunset to say your goodbyes. He sails with my ship on the night tide." And he turned, leaving the 2 friends alone amid the dispersing crowd. They ran toward each other, not as children, but as castaways, grabbing the last plank. The hug was hard, desperate, bone against bone. "You sparked," Torin whispered against Kael's shoulder, his voice hoarse. "You really did." I saw. "Doesn't matter," said Kael, the words tumbling out in a whirlwind. "I'm not going, not without you. I'll run away. Well, let's shut up." Torin pulled away, gripping Kael's shoulders. Down. His green eyes, now red-rimmed but dry, burned with a quiet fury. "You're going. You're getting on that ship. You're learning everything you can. You're going to become the greatest water mage this god's-forsaken continent has ever seen. Got it, Torin?" "I promise," Torin interrupted, his voice low and laden with a solemn vow. "I promise I'll be okay. I'll keep going. I'll fight. I'll eat. I'll survive. I won't become a wharf statistic. And one day I'll find you again. Not as a beggar, because someone." Kael wanted to argue, wanted to cry, wanted to smash the shell into 1,000 pieces. But he saw the determination on the face of the brother blood hadn't given him. It was the same determination that had kept them alive every day. Torin was transferring his hope to him. "And I promise," Kael swallowed the knot in his throat, "that I'll come back when I can. I'll get you out of here. We'll have a house." "No smell of rotten fish." Torin gave a sad smile, his last of the day. "No smell of rotten fish," he repeated, like a prayer. The sun began to sink, painting the sky orange and purple. Captain Lorne's call echoed from the wharf. The last hug was quick, almost brutal. Neither cried. Tears were a luxury their life had never allowed. "Go," Torin whispered, taking a step back, disappearing into the long shadow of the warehouses. Go spark for the both of us, Kael. Kael turned and walked toward the ship, each step feeling like he was leaving a piece of himself behind on the damp sand. The blessing now felt like a curse. The door opening for him was the same one slamming shut in Torin's face, locking him on the other side. He climbed the gangplank, the smell of new wood and tar filling his nostrils, replacing the familiar scent of low tide and friendship. He looked toward the shore, at the maze of planks and shadows that was his only home. There, nearly invisible, a thin silhouette raised a hand in a final wave. Kael raised his in reply. And then, the ship pulled away from the stranded village of shells, carrying with it a boy whose heart was torn between the light of an uncertain future and the silent darkness of the brother left behind. End of part 1. Thank you for getting this far. Subscribe to the channel and receive more videos like this.